Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy. Mark Moyer doing some great things with his networking platform. We're actually going to have a pretty big networking event next week. I think it's the 5th, so stay tuned. Check out winagainacademy.com. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Excited to talk to our guest, Monique McCall, today. Welcome to the Wolff Den. How's everything going?
Everything's great. How are you, Matt?
Living. I'm loving and living, right?
Living and loving. Yeah.
Living and loving. Well, for those in the audience who don't know who you are, give a quick introduction and then we'll get right into it.
Sure. I'm Monique McCall. I'm a country music singer, songwriter, recording artist, also a podcast host of Living and Loving. I'm sharing the message of living and loving through music, through, my message on my podcast. So check me out. You can check me out on all of my platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Great to see you there, and check out my songs everywhere.
Yeah. You had a great night last night. Tell us what happened.
Oh my goodness. So it was fantastic. I was invited to perform at the Tampa Rays game. It was their final season game. So they had already clinched the playoffs. So the night before, I was hoping that it would be the day that I was performing, but it was a great end of the season game. They beat the Marlins. It was a big Florida game. Florida versus Florida. You always got to love that. So a lot of Florida fans out there. There were over 20,000 people. Really great day.
That's a good crowd. Marlins with a disappointing year, but that's for another show to talk about. You mentioned it wasn't the first time you sang a national anthem, but what's the feeling like to actually be singing the national anthem in front of a crowd, a fairly large crowd? And then how does that differ from, are you more nervous or excited than singing in front of a crowd if you're performing your own stuff?
You always get a little nervous. I think that if you're not doing what you love and love what you're doing in music, if you're not getting nervous, then, you're kind of probably not as into it as you need to be. So I always get, mildly nervous. There's always that little churn. But, once you get that mic in your hand, first note comes out, it's easy soaring from there.
If you could sing the national anthem for any event, you could pick whatever event you want it to be, what would it be? Well,
I'd have to say the Super Bowl. That's the most obvious. That's every singer's dream, at least one of their dreams. But, I've done the national anthem so many times, and my favorite places to do it is always, events for our military. That really resonates with me. I'm very patriotic, and I wrote a song about our beautiful nation. I sang at the CPAC convention in Washington, D.C. in 2010, and one of our nation's leaders got up and he spoke. He said, we're facing tough times. We have to remember what our forefathers, our grandfathers, our brothers, our sisters, our fellow men and women have done and continue to do for this beautiful nation. And I think now we need to remember that as well. And he said, there's truly no better place than the United States of America. So I went home. I said, oh my gosh, that's the song. That's the patriotic song I'm going to write. So No Better Place has been released actually during the pandemic in 2020.
Oh, I agree with it. I've heard the song. It's funny if you like. It's like some songs are great songs whether you like country music or not, and then some songs you just kind of have to be a country fan. And we'll talk all about country music. I get chills when I hear the national anthem sometimes. I want to tell you a funny story. I don't even know if it's funny about the national anthem. I am, as we had mentioned before, I'm Jewish. So every year I go to high holiday services.
Jewish?
Yeah, Jewish. That's what my rabbi said. He's got those jokes. They're not as funny the 15th time you heard them, but
sorry about that.
No. I'm just saying. But he also officiated our wedding, and it was pretty funny. So they sing the national anthem, and then also sing the Israeli national anthem. And he has this woman he's known for 50 years, who sings a song at the end, also do the national anthem. And it was interesting because like 2 or 3 years in a row, she messed up the words.
Yes.
And then I said to her, to the rabbi, I said, look, you can't have someone sing the national anthem if they don't know the words, if they're gonna mess it up. You can't do it. And that was it. That was the last time she sang it, thankfully, because
that's always my biggest fear when I get out there. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know the words. I've done this 1,000 times, but what if?
I probably would never sing. I would probably mess up the words somehow. And it would be embarrassing, right? If you mess up the words to your own song, most people might not even know it.
Right.
If you mess up the words to the national anthem, it's not good.
That's the one song you don't want to mess up the words to. Anything else, I think you get forgiven.
Yeah. As long as you're not in like the top 5 worst national anthem singers ever, which I think there was Carl Lewis, I think was one. I'm trying to remember who else.
Probably Roseanne Barr.
Roseanne Barr was the one who probably botched it the most. Yeah, that's a good one. All right. Well, that's a great way to start your week or end your week, depending on how you look at it.
Yes.
Let's talk a little country music. You're a country music singer and songwriter. Where are you from? How did country music become a part of your life?
I grew up in a small cow tipping town in Middle Connecticut called Burlington, just outside the headquarters of ESPN in Bristol, Connecticut, where my father was an engineer. And because my dad was an engineer with NBC Studios and ESPN, we always had music equipment in the house. So he would bring home amps and speakers and microphones, and I always had access as a child to these things, and that's where the music came from. My father loved to sing, so we'd just sit around and pass around the microphone. It was like the Von Trapp family, there's 5 of us, and we all could sing, some better than others, but it was a lot of fun. So from there, and just growing up in a musical household, I then realized over time, as I got a little more into depth into music, where I wanted to head. And I had started with adult contemporary, and then I crossed over when I was living in Europe to pop dance music. And I have a CD in 3 languages.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then once I started writing, I became a writer. I'm like, I really, really want to write. I haven't done this. And when I started writing, I realized that my writing really fit country music because I tell stories. And so I had always listened to Country 92.5 while I was going through college in Connecticut. And so as soon as I started writing, I just crossed over, realized that was the genre that fit me vocally and fit my writing style.
Well, it's funny because country music, like I never really liked country music. I have a friend in college who became all about country, got a Ford Bronco, and we grew up in New Jersey. So not a hotbed for country music at least from where we grew up. And so I never liked it. I like.
You like it now, right? Otherwise we can't be friends, man. This interview's over.
Yeah, I'm gonna get there. So I love live music. And in Fort Lauderdale, I saw an ad, Tortuga Music Festival, 2 days of music on Fort Lauderdale Beach for $99. And I saw that Sister Hazel was playing and Michael Franti, 2 non-country music. And so I was like, well, first of all, I'll spend $99 to see anyone on the beach for music. And it's my favorite people. And so I went, and that was maybe 8 years ago. And I've been to every single day of Tortuga since. That was the original one. And country music is such a huge part of my life now. I mean, I see anyone. I mean, I see more country music. It's more on my playlist than almost anything else. I'm more of a country, fast beat, pop mix kind of country, not as much the old school, but I definitely like the old school country somewhat. Who are your influences? Who are your favorites listening to? Do you point to anyone or?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a big Martina McBride fan. Shania Twain. I love her music. I love her message from when she came. She's that strong, powerful female who overcame so much adversity, but was still able to fulfill her ultimate dream despite, the difficult childhood she had. So she and I have a lot of parallels, a lot in common. Big Dolly Parton fan. Brilliant writer, brilliant vocalist. There's so many. It's so hard to choose,
Yeah.
you know, in the country genre. In the pop genre, you know, always have been a Whitney Houston fan. I love powerful vocals. And of course, in country music, Carrie Underwood as well. She's a power vocalist.
Yeah, so women in country music probably don't get the recognition that they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my question would be kind of, why is that? But then I look at someone like myself.
Mm-hmm.
My phone is littered with women singing country music. But if you start asking me who my favorites are, there's probably going to be 8 or 9 males before I mention one female.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's more overall. That doesn't mean I don't like women in country music. I certainly think there should be more of them at the festivals headlining. Miranda Lambert, who I've never seen before, is going to headline Tortuga, and I'm excited to see her. I saw Maddie and Tay when they were the first act to play in the first day, and nobody knew who they were on the stage. Now they're coming back and playing a little bit bigger. So why is that? I don't think it's only country music too, because if you spread it out, it's probably also a little bit in pop. I mean, everyone knows about.
I mean, I think it's just thanks to the listenership. It just seems to be a very male-dominated genre, and I don't really have.
There's so many females. When I'm at the shows, there's so many females there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I guess they like those country boys.
Yeah, well, it's not a. I mean, again, I don't think it's unique to country music, but definitely there's a couple of good Twitter follows that kind of point out where women need to get more, more
variety. Yes,
more attention in that.
Mm-hmm.
When did you first start performing?
Ooh, professionally or just?
Well, I guess both.
Well, it started in my bathroom and in my family home with a hairbrush, and we had.
I do that too, but nobody's paying me.
We had a bathtub with the mirror right in front, so that was my stage. I just propped myself up there and just with the hairbrush wail away. So that's where it all began. And then I began singing professionally. So I sang the national anthem all through high school, every basketball game. I didn't miss really one. And of course, I was in all of the choirs and virtually choirs and All-State and those kinds of things. And then I went on to sing more professionally a little later when I was in college. And that's when I produced my first CD. And the title of that was I Belong to You.
Yeah, and so when did you find that this is going to be something I can do?
Well, I always knew it was something that I wanted to do. I always knew because I take on any challenge, it's something I can do, because if I want to do something, I know I'm going to find a way always. That's just my personality. I'm a type A. But I knew that, from being like very young, small child, the first time I picked up the microphone with my father, I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And my dad said, oh no, you're not doing this. And actually I got into a performing arts school in Hartford, Connecticut, and my dad would not let me go there because my older sister had gone and it affected her academics, but I was a different student. And so I never got to go to the art school when I was in high school. So I just stayed in the regular public school in Burlington, Connecticut, which, what I have to say that I am not at all upset about that, to be honest, although it would have been an even better foundation than the one I got later. I got to do sports. And I was a big athlete, which is another whole foundation, which is all connected because, singing is not only about the vocals, it involves the whole body. And then, of course, it involves a lot of those team playing skills that come along with being a part of a sports team. So that's kind of sums up, how I got into music and where I headed. But my father, when I went to college, said, you're not doing music. So I hadn't done music. I dropped out of high school. Not high school. I dropped out of college. I had 109 credits. Get this, Matt. 109 credits, dropped out of college, and I went to Milan, Italy to model.
Okay.
And then simultaneously, I cut my first CD. And I said, I'm going to do this. This is what I always wanted to do. My dad said, no, I'm going to do this. And I went with it. I had an opportunity and I ran.
Will you go back to college? Did you go back?
I did. I went back. I got my degree at Lynn University. Okay. And I had originally gone and studied to be a special education teacher.
Corey is saying hi. He is the biggest music fan I've ever met in my life.
Hi, Corey.
He's got a organization called Corey's Crew, KOR. I'll write it in here for everyone. But they give opportunity for people who are disadvantaged to go see live
Corey,
music.
I know you. I've been to your Converse and what is it event?
Yeah.
Nice to see you. I know your parents, Wendy and Chris Sauerman. With the Ideal School. So nice to see you, sweetie.
Well, the Ideal School is no longer. I think they sold it.
Yes, they did. That's a travesty.
Corey's the best. He's always so happy to hear music and loves all kind of music. I love seeing him at shows, and we're actually going to be on a cruise together at the Michael Fronte cruise, and I'll get to watch and listen with Corey and Chris and Wendy and the whole crew, and it's just a fun time. So thanks.
Tell your parents I said hello, Corey, and you know what? Keep playing that music. I see you cruising through town. You've got music going. That's what it's all about, man. Yeah.
So, but why did your dad say no? I mean, academics. Look, I don't have any kids, but I can tell you that all my academics. What did I learn? I don't know. But the biggest things I learned is when I went away to college and I became a man and learned life through lessons and trial and error and kind of, the hard knocks of life, really. So it's interesting to see why someone says, no, don't do that, and is not supportive. On the flip side, timing is everything. It's very possible that you kind of weren't ready to be that. And then in the delay, it kind of was like, all right, now it's time. I know that for myself, a Ticket Time Machine. If I started Ticket Time Machine 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it'd be over before it started. And so,
I mean, I think that for him, I think he just didn't see it as a career. It just wasn't a career. It wasn't a way to make money that would, give me something that, would make me an independent female. So I think for him, he wanted me to have something that was a little more steady, because he knew the entertainment business so well. My dad worked for ESPN.
Yeah.
So he knew what that looked like. And that is, it's a long, hard road, but it's a fun one.
Yeah. I mean, it's a legitimate point, because there's a reason why they call them starving artists, right?
Yes.
There's a ton of people who are trying to get into music. And by the way, some of the most talented people in the world. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason why someone makes it big and someone struggles and does it. If you're doing what you love to do, living in your car and traveling and sleeping on other people's couches and making, pennies, to sing and perform is fine. That's a great way to live life, doing what you love.
And that's always one of my pet peeves, in the music business is a lot of people think, oh, you're an artist, you just get up and you sing. Well, you don't just get up and sing. There's so much that goes into it. And there's so many expenses that you have, as well as you're cutting music and you're creating, so to be the artist and perform and create, you're wearing so many hats. And then oftentimes, venues, they don't want to pay you what they should pay you because they think you're just getting up with a microphone. But that is a myth. There's so much, as you know, with your business, it's a whole business as well, with the social media and the websites and all of the photographs you have to do and the videos, and it all adds up. And then the music production and the recording and the travels. So it is not an easy career, but if you love it, it doesn't feel as hard as, it can present.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to bring the people who they believe are going to get them the most money and bring the most fans in there. But as I mentioned, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason why, like, what makes someone big. I've asked this to JD Eicher, who's a friend of mine, who's this independent singer-songwriter, actually signed with a label, but was. What the difference is. Some of it's like, look, we can't afford to pay someone to play our music.
Yes.
Well, that could be it. But you can get discovered singing the national anthem every day at the basketball games, or singing on a show or on the street. Coach Dills is a friend of the program. He goes everywhere and just sings, and people notice him. It's just like guerrilla marketing type, and that's kind of what you have to do when nobody knows who you are.
A lot of people ask me what my ultimate goal is, and it really is. It's not about being famous. It's not about being a star, but it's being able to move the emotions of as many of my fellow men and women as I can, because there's nothing more beautiful to me than like what happened yesterday, for instance. I was leaving and everyone's like, oh my gosh, that was great. That was fantastic. It's when someone says, oh, that brought back a memory for me, a moment when, or a time with my grandfather, my grandmother. And the ultimate is when people say, that song gave me chills, because now I know I'm touching somebody. And that's what I'm here to do, is to make people feel something.
Nothing better than me at a show listening to music and getting chills. It happens. I go listen to a band and they stop playing and the audience sings, and it just brings chills to me for some reason. Tom Petty did a song live called "Learning to Fly," and it's probably the greatest live song I've ever heard in my life, because at some point he just stops and the whole crowd is singing, and they're not singing for 10 seconds. They're singing for like a minute and a half, and they're loud, and it's unbelievable experience. So I get what you're saying with that. If I had to ask, if I told you, if I asked you what's preventing you from being, I know it's not for the money and the fame, but what's preventing you from being the next big thing? Do you have an idea of what that is?
Some luck. Yeah. Definitely. I think there's some luck involved. What has held me back a bit throughout my career is that, I put most of my hours into my children, and I made the right choice. So I'm pursuing my career more aggressively now, a little later than I would have earlier. So that's kind of what held me back, because I feel that once you decide to become a parent, that takes the forefront. Yeah. But I'm still doing what I love.
Yeah.
And I still have had so many wonderful opportunities, and you never know where one's going to lead you.
You're very young in the grand scheme of things. Performers. I mean, you could hit it big 5 years from now and still have 20 years of killing it, and
Absolutely. It's never too late. And that's what I want people to know. It doesn't matter how old you are. Pursue your dreams, go after them. It's, this is not a dress rehearsal. You only have one life to live. So get out there and live it, the way you want to live it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on reality, these music competitions on TV?
I mean, I think they're great. They're fantastic competitions. It's a great way to launch a career. I think it's a great way for people to grow as artists. They're fantastic. They're not for me, because I like to do my thing, but I don't see anything negative with it. I think that they're a lot of fun. I love watching them. I watch America's Got Talent, and so many great artists have come out of those programs. So it's a great platform.
Yeah, I think there's, in my opinion, too much fluff on it. It's obviously a production, TV production. There was a show called The Sing Off, which is where Pentatonics came from. And to me, that's the only singing show that I'll watch. And then even that got too fluffy. But Ben Folds was one of the judges, and he was so good just judging and being technical about it. Kind of like Robin Thicke, if you watch The Masked Singer. Robin Thicke, really good at judging. And then you have these other judges who, some are funny and some are, who knows.
But some of them, they give really great critiques. And I think for other artists who are just watching, there's something to be garnered, something to be learned.
Yeah, I think so. But it's not, you could go on a show like that, but you're saying it's not for you. Why is that? Isn't it possible that you can go on and someone big can hear you, or someone who's a nobody could hear you, but they shared, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just never been my thing. It's kind of like I had done pageants when I was really young, and I just didn't like that feeling of, 5 people determining, my fate of that moment. I like to just live in my moment.
Yeah, I think the good thing about those shows is, and why people go on, is you're almost better off not winning. Like, if you win, you're signed, you're beholden to them. If you don't win, people have already heard you. Yeah. That's why you have people go on doing ridiculous things. There's something for
in costumes, and
there's something for everybody. What does the pandemic do to your career, and what were you doing during the pandemic? Are you out performing again? I know you performed the national anthem, but I'm talking about shows where you're a lot closer to the audience.
Sure. So the pandemic, was hard on anyone who was an artist, obviously, because all venues shut down. Artists at any level, nonetheless. And so what I personally did, because I had a whole tour planned, I had, shows up in New England, I had shows in Tennessee, I had shows in Florida, and everything was canceled. I had stayed home. Believe it or not, going into the pandemic, it was a hard time for me. I got very, very sick, and they didn't know what was wrong with me, and it took some time for the doctors to figure it out. And I ended up finding out that I had Epstein-Barr virus.
Oh, wow.
So then I had to really.
What's that?
Epstein-Barr comes from mono. So if you had mono in your childhood, it can surface, and it comes from stress. And I had a very stressful situation. One of my family members got very ill with a collapsed lung, and I had to take care of him for a month or so. And so when I got back from that, I was up in New England. When I got back from that, back to Florida, I had been so exhausted from trying to figure out the whole situation and, be the advocate with the doctors. And then his whole family came in, and I took care of the family as well. So it wore me out. And that's where Epstein-Barr comes from. So originally the doctors thought, that was the time they couldn't do COVID tests. They thought I had COVID because I had a lot of the symptoms, but it ended up being Epstein-Barr. And it was to the point where I could barely walk. I couldn't get out of bed. And that had never happened to me. I'm a really strong person. So of course, after that happens, when, you go through something that tough, what do you do as a songwriter? You start writing songs. And so as I got better, I had to really self-isolate. I couldn't be around people because my immune system was absolutely destroyed. And the doctor said, you get around somebody, you get this thing, we don't know. So I was hyper cautious, and I took to writing and wrote many songs. But the one that I most recently released about that experience is my newest single called Livin'. And so many people wrote songs about the pandemic, and a lot of, sad songs, negative songs, but I say, this is not necessarily a sad time. People need to know that they need to be living.
Yeah.
So we're here for, no matter how you're doing it, how you're living out the pandemic. Listen, we can't judge anybody how they dealt with it. It was so unknown. It was so scary for so many. And so I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to judge anybody because, there's a lot that it goes into it, how you grew up and how you handle things, and, where you are at that moment. And at that moment, I had been very sick. So for me, when I got out of that and I got stronger physically, I got stronger mentally. And I think a lot of people did through the pandemic. And so I wrote the song Livin', and it was all about living from the inside out. My fears are all gone. Yeah, I've got no doubt. Inside is where I'm strong. Somewhere deep within my soul, I'll always know that I'm living when I'm living from the inside out. And the verses, of course, touch on the pandemic, but I wanted something positive because there's so many great things to take away from COVID-19.
I agree. A couple points there. My wife, I don't know if you heard me, my wife has Epstein-Barr. She lost a year of her life in college. And when she got COVID, because I gave it to her, terrible husband that I am, it really, really was bad. I mean, the fatigue and all of that was just accelerated with COVID. Thankfully, she's okay now and doing better. But yeah, it's a brutal, it's like a silent disease, one of those silent diseases and there's no cure for it.
No. And it can surface at any time. You don't know how it's going to affect you. And when it does, it can be mild. You don't even know it. It can be a monster. So
yeah, when I actually was depressed and I was having my bout of depression, she thought I had Epstein-Barr and wanted me to. Turns out I was depressed. I don't know. They're no better. Norm Macdonald, rest in peace, had a great thing about the best disease. It's pretty funny, but there are no good diseases. But the pandemic for me it's been a blessing, and it's hard. It's tough to say that sometimes because hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives, and people lost everything. But for me, it got me a chance to just take a step back relax, slow down, enjoy what's going on, focus on my business. I just gotten married, so I have all this time to just spend with my wife and not have to worry about any of these other things.
Right.
So, it's been great for me in a sense, not financially, of course.
Yes.
There's so much more to everything other than the finances will be there. That's a good segue to your loving and living. We talked about earlier about faith and,
spirituality.
The right things. Everything's going to be okay. So tell everybody about your love. Is it living and loving? I don't know why. I always like to say loving and living, but it's living and loving.
It's
right?
living and loving.
I don't know why I like to say loving.
We're going to be living, so then we can be loving. Maybe that'll help you remember it.
So tell everyone about your podcast, why you started it, and what it means to you.
So I started the podcast because I was working with a friend of mine on all my social media platforms, Steve Noodleberg. So shout out to him. He's fantastic. Check him out. He's got the Daily Huddle every morning. Go, Steve. I love you. I miss you, man. After I came out of the pandemic, he said, Monique, you have so much to say with your music, but we never hear what you have to say. He said, you really need to have a podcast. He said, so I was just sitting there with him. He said, what's your mission? And as I always do, I just let the universe tell me, what's truly coming from the inside. So it just came to me. I said, well, I just want people to know that they should get out and live and love, that we're here. That's what we're here for. We're living and we're loving. And that's what we're here to do. He said, so start a podcast, start interviewing people, see how they're out living, loving what they're doing, and see what the connectivity is and how those all come together and how they got where they got in their careers. And it's so interesting because every time I have a guest on, no matter, what discipline, what job they've had, whatever they're doing, it always comes down to one thing. And it comes from the heart. It comes from that place in the heart, and the drive comes within, the persistence comes from within. And it's funny because I always say, did that take mind or heart? And they're like, well, I had a lot of heart in it, even though the intellectual was there. The real idea came from the heart. The real spirit of it all came from the heart. So I truly believe we're here to love. And actually, I can go a little deeper on that with you if you'd like. This is a little out of the ordinary, but when I was 10 years old, I had a near-death experience. So I know truly that we're here for love. We're here to live. We're here to love.
Well, I've been talking about that a lot lately, that it takes some type of event, usually tragedy, for people to realize that we don't really have a lot of control on what's going on around here. We need to really embrace life and what we're doing. I lost my dad 16 years ago, and that kind of did it for me, although I kind of always lived that way. And then these events happen. It could, and it kind of reiterates it. But we need to stop waiting for that tragedy or that sign. It's all around you. You just got to look. And so that's what I think is great about what you do with Living and Loving. And why I wanted to have you on here is to really talk about who you are. Because, look, you can come on here and you could sing the whole entire time, and that's great, but I could just send people to your music. I can't just send people to a place that's going to understand who you are, which is really why I like to have people on. There's so much information about what everyone's doing. Just click a link, send them here. It's very easy.
And thank you. I'm so grateful that you had me on today. You have a really amazing podcast. I know you have a lot of listeners. And of course, I'm an admirer of the work that you're doing, that you are the ticket time machine, and you are keeping that memory alive.
Yeah, it's, passion. It's the same thing you talk about. When I talk, I'm a very monotone kind of guy, generally speaking. I don't get that excited about a lot of things. There's a few things I get excited about: my family, the Gators, music, and then.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's you guys are really embarrassing yourselves out there. But
I know, but I have no choice. My oldest daughter is a Seminole. I can't betray my child. So
I get fired up when I start talking about this in passion. And I'm not going to succeed because I'm passionate about it, but it's going to give me a leg up on almost everyone else, the type of passion and faith that I have and what I'm doing. That's on the Ticket Time Machine side. And then the Wolff Den is really just about telling stories. Like, let's have a conversation and tell a story about who you are and what people should know about you, and then what people should know about, what's going on in your life and in the world. Because I don't care. Again, I don't care who you are or what you've been through. You're not unique. And I say that in the way that everyone thinks like this is happening to me, like I'm alone in this, and you're not. There's always someone out there who's been dealing with something very similar to that, if not exactly the same thing,
or if not worse. You know,
yeah, it's one of the reasons why I champion so much for Same Here, which is mental health. But yeah, I mean, when someone hears that story, when someone hears, look, I had Epstein-Barr and I was paralyzed. I hate to use that word, but it kind of like paralyzes you, right? You can't get up. And then it makes you kind of not judge, the same thing you said, not judge someone else for whatever they're doing. I mean, if they wanted to spend the pandemic lying in bed, watching TV and just kind of doing nothing until they could, that's fine. We don't know why. So I try not to judge people. And I judge a lot, but I try not to judge people going through
human nature to judge. It's also human nature to not self-reflect. And I think that is one of the most important elements for growth. If you're capable of self-reflecting, you're capable of having a happier, better life, because you can really take a look inside at who you are. Because self-reflection isn't looking to the outside. You know, I've studied the Inside Out revolution. I believe strongly in this. We never need to look to the outside for our happiness. It's always truly within. And when you live from that space inside out, you'll always be happy. And it's living from that inside out and self-reflecting. That's where you grow.
Well, I think we talked about that when I was on Living and Loving. And I think that I actually also sang a song about that. Didn't I sing Man in the Mirror at the end? You made me, you didn't make me, you got me, you convinced me, which, yeah. So Man in the Mirror is my favorite Michael Jackson song, one of my favorite songs. And I try and self-reflect. One thing I'm pretty good at, I think, is understanding my flaws, which is a very difficult thing for people to either do or admit, and feeling comfortable in your own skin. But I think we all need to do more of that. And I'm guilty of it, you know, as anyone else. Who are some of the people that inspire you to do that? I mean, where do you know, to be a better person, to spread the love and the message that you're doing? Who influences you? Who do you look up to that makes you kind of want to be a better person?
My children. I've learned more from them than anybody, and they make me want to be the best person that I can possibly be. They've taught me the best lessons, and I'm grateful for having my two little girls in my world.
And how old are they?
21 and 7.
Ah, big gap.
I wasn't thinking.
It's all right.
At one point, I said, I have a teenager and a toddler, no longer now, but when they were a teenager and toddler, I'd say, I have a teenager and toddler, and that's the title of a horror film.
Yeah. The other day was National Daughters Day or something like that.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Were you guys able to celebrate? How did the daughters get along? Because that's a big gap, 21 and 7. You could see where there could be a lot of instances where they don't get along. But, you know, the 21-year-old has a very good opportunity to be, you know, a strong figure in her sister's life.
Well, the older one initially, she was kind of, you know, she was the only child for 13 years. So first she's like, oh my gosh, you're still going to love me. You know, she's 13. It's that middle school age where, you know, they're not so comfortable in their skin. I think, you know, I firmly believe that we should take kids from middle school through high school and let them just go be them. And then they come back later because they're a lot nicer. They come back later, like in their 20s. I bet you put your parents through a lot of stuff too, right, Matt? No, she's a great kid. She didn't put me through a lot, but she was, you know, very concerned with the little one. But then once, you know, you have the baby in your arms and you see your little sister there, you fall in love. And she became very much like a mom to her little sister. Even though I'm always there for my children. I think an older sibling likes to take on that role. It's kind of like their real live American Girl doll.
Yeah.
And so even more so now I see that happening. She's 21, so she's pretty much of age to have children. So when she's with her sister, we just went to Disney, and they enjoy it in different ways. But I'm seeing her really enjoying watching her sister do the things that she did when she was young. So they get along beautifully. And I'm doubly blessed.
I have an older sister. She's 3 years older, and couldn't ask for a better sibling. She really is the greatest, and she just does so much for me. But the funny thing is that it's all happened after college. Like when she was the older sister growing up, I don't have any memories of her being such a great older sister in the sense of, we fought a little bit, probably fought a lot. But then like she went away to college, and then you start missing them, and then we're both away from college, and we're both adults. And she still takes care of me. Not that I need to be taken care of, but as a sister, and that's kind of what we all do for our family. In our family, I say that because it's not guaranteed. Plenty of families out there who don't talk to each other, don't do right by each other. Just saw a real weird movie called Kate on Netflix. It's all about kind of family and gory. So if you don't like that, but it was an interesting movie. But yeah, my sister kind of after later in life became that really older sibling who takes care of you. And it's great.
That's my theory. I told you. You have to let them raise themselves to those years, and then they come back a little later and they're a lot nicer.
But on the flip side, your daughter's now 21. And so at some point you're going to have to toe that line between being her mom and kind of being on the sidelines and supporting her, kind of like for whatever she wants to do. How do you navigate through that?
I mean, I think you're a mom. You're always a mom.
Always a mom. I get that, but I tell that to my mom.
Someone who's older than I, that has gone before me, says, you know what? It's never going to change. You're going to always be a mom, even when they're 40, even when they're 50. I did pull back, and I started, when she was about 15 or 16, so she could create that strong, independent character and be able to stand up for herself and make her own way. So I think it's really important, how you parent. I see a lot of helicopter moms, and I don't want to be that mom. I want my daughter to be able to do these things for herself, because God forbid I'm not here. So I feel like that's my job, is to give her that freedom, that independence to be able to stand on her own 2 feet, no matter what the circumstance. And, I continue to try to do that. But my daughter is pretty much autonomous, except for the fact that, she's studying. So I take care of mostly the financial.
Right.
But other than that, she's autonomous. She does everything for herself, whether she's a musical theater major. So whether she's auditioning, she handles all her auditions, all of her videos, all of her videos, all of her submissions, all of her agents. There was a time I did all that for her, but now she's completely handling everything for herself. And it's so beautiful to watch that transition.
And she's going to be a performer. Is that what you said?
Yes. Musical theater BFA. I did not tell her she couldn't have this career.
You perform together?
We have in the past.
Yeah. That's got to be awesome.
It's super cool. Actually, we're working on a mother-daughter show right now called Two of a Kind.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be same like a podcast type?
No, we're going to perform together.
Oh, okay. Like a show. Like, yeah. I look forward to seeing that. My mom, I get voicemails, "Hi, Matt, it's mommy." And I'm like, you can stop saying mommy on the voicemail. First of all, I know who it is. And say like mom, not mommy. But anyway, I am not a mom.
I can continue to say mommy, because she calls me mommy, because my daughter's Italian. She grew up in Italy. I was an international model. So I ended up giving birth to my child in Italy, which is a whole other story.
What is the rule on that? If you're born in the U.S., you're a citizen. If you're born in Italy, then you automatically are a citizen, even if you're not an Italian citizen?
Well, her father's an Italian, so she got dual citizenship. She has American and Italian citizenship. So I don't really know the answer if it was two American parents. I don't know how that works out, but he happened to be born and raised in Italy.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Living and loving. Who would you love to have on? Do you have a bucket list guest to have on?
Whew, I mean, there's so many people. That's a huge question. I mean, if I could go back in time and pick somebody that's not here anymore, it has to be
You're living and loving. We have to talk about someone who you can actually have on there and put it out in the universe.
I never thought about the exact person, but it would be any country artist. I'm so fascinated by Luke Combs. He's such an amazing songwriter, and I would love to talk to him about that. I'd love to talk to him about how those songs come to be. I'm sure a lot of it is heart, and I really want to see, how he taps into that space.
Have you reached out to Luke Combs?
No, I haven't.
I'm going to give you the best business advice you'll ever get. That's the first step. Luke Combs is never going to come on your show unless you ask him to come on your show. And you probably have to talk to his people anyway. But that's the first step. Ask. Because he's not just going to say, you know what? I should go on Monique McCall's Living and Loving podcast. He should do that, but he's not going to.
And I've been so fortunate. I have had some incredible people on the show. We had Danny Stubbs from the 49ers and Rick Cerrone from the Yankees. I just had Bill Grimes, who was the CEO of ESPN and Univision, and so on and so forth. Authors, I had Lisa McCourt, a best-selling children's author, TJ Nelligan, and who else? I've had such a long list since I started my podcast in March. So now you got me thinking. I need to reach out to Luke.
Reach out to everyone that you want to have on, and I mean literally anyone. I've reached out to. I think I reached out to Ellen DeGeneres' team and everyone. I mean, I can't even tell you the people that I've reached out to, and if I told you, like, it's ridiculous, they're never going to come on. Probably not. Maybe they will. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know. I was in sales for many years. I was in medical software, and I always told my team members every no is you get closer to a yes.
Yeah, got to pick up.
Welcome the no's.
Yeah.
Welcome them in.
Well, no is the second best answer you can get.
Exactly.
I'll tell you. How about bucket list for performing? Where would you love if you could perform anywhere? Like, I know we talked about the Super Bowl for the national anthem, but as a performance in a concert, where would you like to perform, and who would you like to be opening up for?
Well, I wanted to open for Casey Musgraves. Oh. I love her. I think she's just absolutely fantastic. Her music's fantastic. A male artist, obviously. I'd love to open for Luke Combs. He's like one of my all-time favorites. I love the Zac Brown Band. They're phenomenal as well.
Are you going to see them here? I'm actually out of town. They're here in a couple of weeks.
No, I don't know that I'm going to head on out there. I have to look at my calendar. I kind of live, every 2 days I check my calendar to see what's coming up next because there's so much going on. So I don't have. I'm sure that's not on my calendar right now.
I plan 8 months out. I'm a planner.
I plan, but then it's like my calendar's so overwhelmed. I have to just check and be like, okay, this is what I have coming up.
So Casey and Luke, and where are you guys going to play?
And if I could sing alongside someone, I would love if I could do a female duet. It'd be Dolly Parton.
I thought you would say that.
Yeah.
You have a venue that you'd love to play at? That you haven't?
The biggest venues, Madison Square Garden, anything you can imagine. I'd love to do a USO tour. I've always wanted to do that. I really am passionate about, what our fellow men and women have done and continue to do for this country. And it's so important that we remember that, we honor that, and we give back and share the gifts that we have, because they are really putting their lives on the line for us every day.
Yeah, country music is big on that. Anytime you go to a show, you're bound to get a USA chant, and the artists themselves, generally speaking, will take a minute to say thanks, that'll give you chills too. And and just standing there. It's country music is. I don't know. I think everyone should go see a country music show. It's like it's not like anything else. I actually prefer outdoor shows than indoor. I go to very few indoor shows these days. Give me an amphitheater or a festival outdoors, and that's my scene. Do you have someone that you've never seen perform that you would love to see perform?
I mean, you can pretty much, you mean live is what you're saying, right? Never really thought about that. I mean, if I could have seen someone who's no longer here, I would have loved to see Elvis Presley because his magnetism, the way that he could command a stage is like no other. But
Elvis would be up there. I never saw Michael Jackson. I would put him at if there was someone who isn't around anymore that I could see, it would be Michael Jackson. Just incredible how many hits the guy has. And his stage presence, but that would be it for me. How about a Mount Rushmore of music, country music? If it could be the people you think are the 4 greatest, or your 4 favorites.
Of country music?
It could be any music if you want, or country. I mean,
you're really testing me. There's so many. Are you really? You're not going to make me do this. I can't do this. How could you pick the Mount Rushmore of music?
Very easy. I can give you mine. It's Tom Petty, Billy Joel, Green Day, and probably Lady Gaga.
Wow. Okay.
That's my favorite.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I really can't. I'd have to think about that one. That would take a little more thinking. I would just be throwing something out there to appease you, and I really want to give that some thought. So you're going to come back to me on that one for sure.
Yeah, when me, you, and TJ and Temmie are out, we're having a drink. You'll let us know. Country music, huge drinking. It's just a lot about drinking. And do you have a favorite drink? Are you a whiskey gal? Are you a wine, beer? Do you not drink?
No, I don't drink often, but when I do drink, my preference is a Stella.
Okay.
I love Stella, and I am a Brunello di Montalcino girl.
There you go. Why is whiskey in every country music song?
Do it for me. Red wines.
Why is whiskey the alcohol that everyone sings about?
It's whiskey or tequila.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I can't get in touch with either, because I've never really had either. Even though I know I used to do that song in all my shows, pour me another shot of whiskey. And I'd always have a shot there, but I wouldn't drink it.
I just saw Cole Swindell. He opened for Thomas Rhett, and he does You Ain't Worth the Whiskey, which is a great song.
Here's a game. Let's name all the whiskey songs. Tennessee whiskey.
Michael Franti has a song called My Favorite Wine is Tequila.
Yes.
Country, but that's a good tequila
You
song.
and tequila make me crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of
good clothes fall off, so I heard.
A lot of good tequila songs on lately. Well, look, we're getting towards the end of this. I want you to sing a song for us. It doesn't have to be the whole song, just a little bit. Give everyone a taste of what you got, so we can send them to your links for the rest of the music and take off from there.
Perfect. Well, I have a great song today. It's one of my favorites to perform, one of my favorites that I've written. It's about our beautiful state of Florida. So we're hoping to get this as the state song. So all of you listeners out there, if you know Governor DeSantis, CFO Petronas, get them this song, Feel Like Florida by Monique McCall. And I have to say, right now it is feeling like Florida. It's still so hot here. I'm looking forward to cooler weather. But
what is the state song? Is it
I think it's Swanee River or something, isn't it?
I thought maybe it's a Jimmy Buffett song. I don't know.
I don't think it is. I think it's Swanee River.
Yeah, that's a good. You know what? If I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I would definitely have lost a lot of money there.
Oh, well, I might have too. You'll have to look that up after and let me know when we're having that drink. Speaking of drinking. Here it goes.
All right. Give us a little bit of Florida.
Okay, what's happening here? 1 second. It's always fun. Not sure what's happening, Matt. I already ran a sound check on this. There we go. Gotcha. You get a taste of summer in this little big city town. Yeah, it's not about 30, but it's not gonna get me down. Cause I know that time is coming, soon I'll be southbound. This weather's got me thinking about all the fun and drinking, pretending that I'm already there. I feel like Florida today. When I close my eyes, I can feel the way. Sunshine and warm breeze are taking me to that state. I feel like Florida. I feel like Florida today. Had a really rough winter. Now the sun is coming round. Wake up in the morning, no more frost on the ground. This weather's got me thinking about all the fun and drinking, pretending that I'm already there. I feel like Florida today. When I close my eyes, I can feel the way. Sunshine and warm breeze are taking me to that state. I feel like Florida. I feel like Florida today. That's right. Ooh, I feel like Florida. Ooh, I feel like Florida. Ooh, I feel like Florida. I feel like Florida today. When I close my eyes, I can feel the way. Sunshine and warm breeze are taking me to that state. I feel like Florida. I feel like Florida. Don't it feel like Florida today?
Great. The sound was off a little bit, but that's we're gonna push to get that to be the Florida song. First of all, if we both live in Florida for as long as we've been here, and we don't know what the state song is, it's time to get a new state song that everyone knows. That would be my.
I like the way you think.
Like, you know, you should know what we're known for and what it should be. So let's we'll try and get it. I don't know anyone that can make that happen, but I don't know. We can figure it out.
Just put it out into the universe. That's how the world runs, really.
We do. That's about the best chance of something happening is people knowing that you want it to happen.
If you believe it, it will happen. So
yeah, I don't know that everything we believe is going to happen, but it's not going to happen if you don't believe it. That would be my advice. Monique McCall, check out her website, MoniqueMcCall.com. On Facebook and Instagram, Monique McCall Music, and find out what she's doing. Click like. I don't know. I listen on Amazon Music, so you tell them how to figure out how to support you.
You can just check me out on YouTube. Check me out at MoniqueMcCall.com, MoniqueMcCallMusic.com, whichever you prefer. At Monique McCall Music on Instagram, Monique McCall on Facebook, LinkedIn, Monique McCall, Monique McCall, Monique McCall, Monique McCall, and Living and Loving.
Living and Loving too, right? Check out the podcast, Living and Loving. And when she goes on tour, come support her. I look forward to seeing you live. even though this was kind of live, but not really. It's live, but it's not the same as, standing and watching you on stage. So looking forward to that. Have a great week, everyone. We got Danny Werfel coming to the Wolff Den tomorrow. Going to be a great week. Make it a great night. And we'll talk to everyone soon. Thanks
so much for having me, Matt. Have a blessed